The topic of today's webinar is CHAMPS Begins Mississippi Wins, Workplaces Improving Nursing Support. And we have representatives from Greenwood Leflore Hospital, Merit Health Women's Hospital, Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center, and Delta Health Alliance, who will be sharing their experiences and perspectives with us today. All right, so just a few CHAMPS updates before we begin, or a few updates from our team. So this webinar is the last in our spring series 2021, and we will be taking the summer off, but please stay tuned for our updates in the fall. Also, our new website is live. Please visit shareequity.org to check out the new look and explore all your favorite pages. Now I'll turn the webinar over to Cathy, and then we'll see if we can hear her. And if we can't, then maybe we'll just proceed with the rest of the presentation. But Cathy, just a brief introduction for Cathy. Miss Cathy Carothers is our Mississippi CHAMPS liaison and trainer and co-director of Every Mother, Inc. And she will be moderating the session today and introducing our speakers. Please feel free to use the chat box to ask any questions you have during the presentation, and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end. All right, over to you, Greenwood Leflore Hospital representatives.
Hey, this is Carrie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Carrie.
Okay, great. So I am the Child Life Coordinator at Greenwood Leflore Hospital. So we actually got our inspiration to build a lactation room for being part of the Delta Breastfeeding Coalition. And that was sponsored by the Delta Health Alliance, and it was made up of all the counties in the Delta, interested people in the community, and which included breastfeeding moms. And we were brainstorming ideas on how to support breastfeeding moms. And we all came to the consensus that the community lacks support after moms return to work. A lot of them don't have adequate space or time for breastfeeding. So if you can advance the slides, please do. If not, I can keep talking.
No, I got you.
Okay, and next slide, please. I just kind of quickly went over that. And so we came up with the Business Breastfeeding Challenge. And so the challenge was for businesses to be breastfeeding friendly for their employees and patrons. So next slide, please. And as a member of the coalition and a business in the community, we wanted to be one of the flagships. And so we really had to look inward at our own processes that we had in place. And so we kind of evaluated where we were. And we realized we had no breastfeeding policy for our employees. However, managers were very supportive of time to pump, but there was really no true designated area. So we had employees finding their own spaces to go and pump in. And so our first step was to make a policy. And with the help of the coalition and also the Office on Women's Health and the Mississippi Workplace Law, we kind of gathered all our resources and formulated a policy. And this is a sample of that right here, the next 3 slides. And so our policy was, once it was formulated and approved, Then it was communicated to all our current employees, and it is also gone over with all new employees at the new employee orientation. And so it outlines what the GLH responsibilities are, which is to make sure that employees know they can use their normal breaks and meal times. Of course, if that doesn't work for them, they can always negotiate a time with their supervisor. We provide them with a place to pump. We have a lactation room. However, they can use their private office or another location agreed upon by their supervisor. And then staff support. So we do ask that all our staff is supportive of our breastfeeding moms and cover them for the time that they're off the floor if they need be. We ask that employees keep their supervisor informed of where they're going to be pumping and when. Keep the lactation room clean. We provide wipes and all that. Of course, housekeeping does too. And milk storage. So make sure that they know where they can store their milk properly. And so we started looking for a location. Next slide, please. And our administration was very receptive to the idea. We knew our requirements of a lactation room, so we wanted to make sure that it was not a bathroom, not a closet, had running water, electricity, room for a comfortable chair. So all we really had to do was ask. And so we were expecting the bare minimum, but we got more than we could ever ask for. So next slide, please. Okay, so we'll go over what we did get. So we got a great location, and our lactation room is located next to our newborn nursery. So not only is it convenient for employees, but also any moms that are coming in for follow-up appointments are able to utilize that room as well. It is a huge room. It has multiple comfy chairs, curtain dividers, refrigerators. We do have an adjoining bathroom that has a changing station. We have a couple of TVs and a telephone. So next slide, please. And one more, please. Great. And so this is just kind of one shot of the room. What you cannot see is one of our curtains that can divide that space off. It can be divided into 3 quadrants. We have 2 televisions, 2 sets of closets are available. We also, like I mentioned, have the changing table and everything in the bathroom, multiple outlets so that, okay. And then we wanted to publicize what we had done. So in collaboration with the Business Challenge, we also held our grand opening for our lactation room. And next slide, please. So we sent out invitations in-house, which you can see on the next slide, but we also invited members of the community, HR directors from different businesses in the community, baby friendly task force members, politicians, the mayor, anyone who wanted to come. We wanted to show them the good things that we were doing here at Greenwood Leflore. And that's one of our invitations for in-house. And for all those who were not able to attend the Business Challenge, we also had the newspaper to give us some attention to let the general public know as well that couldn't be there. So this is how we support our breastfeeding mothers at GLH.
Thank you so much, Carrie. It was a wonderful presentation, and we do apologize for the technical issues that came up. But this is what I really like is this is a step-by-step plan, and that's what people need is what do we do first? What do we do next? What do we do after that? So I think you've outlined a terrific step-by-step plan. So next we're going to hear from Renee Simpson at Merritt Women's Hospital, and she's going to share a little bit more about how they've been able to create a culture of support for employees throughout the hospital. So Renee, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hey, everybody. And Carrie, that was great. Your lactation rooms are beautiful, very pretty. I'm the lactation nurse at Women's Hospital. With this the baby friendly lead, we've been baby friendly for going on 4 years now. Had to do a lot of work for that. So a lot of our culture with the breastfeeding support really and truly had started before baby friendly, because so many of our nurses were breastfeeding mothers, which is a good thing to have. But we wanted to find a great spot for them. A lot of them were breastfeeding like behind the curtains in NICU, or we really didn't have a good safe, pretty spot. So we've had to do some adapting. But when Cathy first asked me about this, I really had not looked at our actual policy with CHS. So I went back and pulled that, and it was really kind of archaic and old, which I'm working on a new one now. But it was the standard, you know, they can have break time and pump. They're supposed to have a good location to pump. But one of the things that stood out to me was the policy stated, I'm sorry, I'm on the second screen. I'm listening to my self-talk. Our current policy states that they can pump up to 1 year. And that kind of really stood out to me. So I'm changing that to as long as the mom is lactating and pumping milk for her baby, because some moms do pump longer than that. We had a nurse that was pumping about 14, 15 months recently. So I am working on that change. Okay, next slide. And this is similar to what Carrie was talking about. There's no time frame for the employees. With us in the newborn area, especially in labor and delivery, they really have to pump when they can. They have to work that in. So it's not a set break time with them. But they do need a break time that's sufficient enough to express their breast milk. And they do not have to use a bathroom. They don't have to use their lunch time or clock in or clock out. They pump when they need to pump. Next slide. So this is our change this past year. We've had to kind of change our location, and we are sharing a room. We used to have a room that was specific for pumping moms, but I've had to kind of adapt it into our outpatient room and make that more available when we can. We have outpatient visits in the morning, so we have changed our chapel area into a secondary pumping area for our employees. So this is just a little sign we have on there, but it is, we want to make sure that it's free from intrusion. Okay, the next slide. So this is our, the picture on the right is our outpatient room. We do, all of our babies come back for a 2-day visit, and we do that in that room. I also have a chair in there, a pump, if I need to help a mom pump while she's there during her visit. We use that area, and then the other slide to the left is our chapel / breastfeeding room. So we've had to really kind of adapt to what we need at the moment. But both rooms are very comfortable, they're private, and all the employees know that they have access to me if they need anything. We have several employees that are pumping now, and if they need any help, they come to me. But normally those girls could probably teach my breastfeeding class. They're very good. And the one thing I am really proud of, we were assessed by the Mississippi Urban League last year, as well as River Oaks Hospital, and we were given an award by the Urban League for our breastfeeding friendly business. So it's something we take to heart. All the nurses know they can come to us. I had a sweet little girl that was working in the cafeteria and food services. She used that room to pump. So hospital-wide, everybody knows that we promote breastfeeding, and we've got a great place for them to pump. That's the end of mine, Cathy.
Oh, Cathy, are you still there? Aisha, do you want to go ahead and introduce the next speaker?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, now we can hear you, Cathy.
Okay, I'm not sure why it went away. I just did want to mention with what Renee presented that, you know, what she's done and what they have done at that hospital is really create that culture to where everybody in the hospital knows that this is important. But I think it's really great if we all need to get to that point that we all, you know, our hospitals are a place where everyone knows that this is breastfeeding is going to be supported. But it's also important to have a policy, because what happens if Renee isn't there? Or if some of the champions who really believe this is important begin, you know, moving to other facilities, or there are changes that occur. So I think policies really are critical to sustaining that culture of support. So congratulations for all that you did, Renee. I think that's amazing. We're going to hear now from Angela Parker at Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center in Macomb. And they too have a great story to tell about how they were able to make some changes in their hospital. So Angela, we'll turn it over to you. Is Angela on the call? Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Yes, I'm on the call. I was muted here.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yes, my name is Angela Parker. I'm the lactation counselor here at Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center, and I am presenting Engaging the Hospital Team to Improve Communications. And I would like to thank you, Cathy and CHAMPS, for the opportunity to share. Next slide. In this particular slide, you can see all of these beautiful faces, and these are actually real faces. They're not props. These are actually the first little part here. You can actually see a whole group of people, and these are chief nursing officers, nurse managers, our COO, our CFO, our education department, purchasing, finance department, as well as myself. And the thing about all of these people is that these also made up the multi-task, our multidisciplinary task force, which were very supportive. And it's because of the variety of people, we made sure together to inform them as to everything that we need, and everybody worked together wonderfully. But in engaging the hospital team to improve communications in regards to our breastfeeding employees and breastfeeding moms, we needed everyone to work together. And the smiley face on the bottom with the blue top is Tina Brumfield. She was our public relations person. So when we decided to develop our actual breastfeeding room, or our mommy me room, everybody came on board, was very excited. It was a very interesting story as to how we decided to do this. But in engaging education with everyone, you can actually see at the top where the nurses are educating a mother. And this particular mother who had delivered here at our hospital was also a secretary, you know, in our admission department. So therefore, you know, just word of mouth was really important. You know, everyone in the hospital, from the top, you know, even down to our housekeeping, department who actually attended a breastfeeding class, and they're the three ladies with the babies on the very bottom, and as you can see, two of them was actually pregnant. One is more showy than the other, but at the same point, these are the people that you see in the hall. So if you want to know where these facilities were, then they're the people to ask, including our security department. So they were also informed as to what baby friendly was when they walk into a mother's room on our maternity suite. That they would see skin to skin, that the babies would be in the room the entire time, to know who the lactation person was or who to ask in order to make sure that they could get the information that they needed. And you also see here a little portion of our breastfeeding room. And in the chair, she was actually the face of our breastfeeding room due to the fact that she had delivered she was pregnant during the time that we was kind of developing this process. She became the face of the room simply because she had a 4-month-old baby, and she's also our chief finance officer who actually helped with making sure that we got everything that we needed financially for our room. And so it was just really awesome to know that so many moms were able to find out about this particular room and was able to, and the staff was able to accommodate us per se. We can keep moving. Next slide, please. Another way that we actually were able to engage everyone, staff, nurses, anesthesiology, lab, was our Health Stream Learning Center. And of course, throughout last year, 2020, when COVID was, the problem of everything, where we couldn't just face-to-face, inform everyone or by paper, everything was loaded on our Health Stream Learning Center. And usually we use this particular health stream, was to basically, keep our certs up or, educating us on different policies or updating us on different changes and things that was going on in the hospital. But during 2020, we're actually able to use it for even more than that. Visitation policies, anything that changed during that time, it became loaded on our HealthStream Learning Center. It became a mandatory thing that we actually had to go into in order to, know exactly everything that was going on. And so we use this a whole lot in order to inform our staff and everyone as to what's happening. And that also included our mom and baby room, to let employees know that we had this option, that we had this policy, that we have this education going on, and that they actually had to, log onto this. They had to participate in answering questions, looking at maybe a small slideshow, and so forth. And so we use this also as a method of communicating with our staff and employees. Next slide. Every 2 years, we have a magazine, and it is actually our magazine, Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center, and whatever else is, whatever we want to entitle it for that particular year. But each department is usually interviewed for certain things. And during this particular year, which was, of course, in 2018, we were preparing to speak more so about breastfeeding and becoming a CHAMPS hospital. And there were some of our nurses that was photographed. And of course, we had just opened our mom and baby room. We had started in March, and we were actually able to do our little grand opening in October. So it took about 6 to 7 months to get everything approved and, the information out there and everyone just sort of on board and knowing what we needed at that point. And this was just one of the little small write-ups that we had, and this is I think when they do this magazine printed out, it's like 5,000 to 7,000. They mail it everywhere. It's in all the doctor's offices and all the rest, little small restaurants and things like that. So everyone gets to see, exactly what Southwest is doing and what we have to offer. Next. Right. What we're doing differently since I had spoken with Cathy was adding information about how we support breastfeeding mothers by simply adding it to our new hire orientation. Whenever we have new hires, these staff members actually have to sit on a week-long orientation process, and so they're actually in a room for the majority of the day in order to learn policies and procedures and so forth in their field. And what we're adding to that particular slide is going to be the Fair Labor Standard Act and what it provides, as far as basic accommodations such as time and space for breastfeeding moms at work. And then, of course, on the next slide, we're going to also be providing the information in our employee manual. And now that we're not doing paper copies anymore, everything is basically going to be in our file bound. And so there's going to be a section there for the electronic employee handbook stating that Southwest, and I needed to kind of rephrase this because we started it but not quite finished. But what was one put in and changed a little bit, Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center is a baby-friendly hospital, and that we support breastfeeding mothers by providing reasonable break times to express breast milk during the workday when they're separated from their baby. We have a designated baby room, and we have the location, which is on the 4th floor for this particular purpose, and that they will also know that there are normal break times or meal times they can use up to 20 minutes. On the live line, you will see that if it's longer than that, that it could be that it states that the unpaid, that it could be unpaid, and the employee should indicate this on the time record. So we're leaving this up to the mother. We're not going to be timing mom when she leaves. We just hope that everyone respect that, they're on their job, but at the same point, we do support the fact that they are breastfeeding moms, and this is very, very, very important, to them, but it's also very important to us that you have that private time and that private space to do this. And we have been, when we started the room, which like I said, back in 2017, it was utilized, it's still being utilized continuously all of the time. We just make sure that it's a wonderful environment, a clean environment, and that mothers are really enjoying it. And I love to read their little notes when they, come in or just leave behind for me. So it's really great that they know that, we support this. Next slide. Cathy also wanted me to add in, how did this idea start? Now, of course, like Renee said, we did have like a little room that we used when mothers would come back for their 2 to 3 day visit, just for follow-up and assess breastfeeding and questions, maybe a little weight check if they haven't already had their weight check within that 2-day period, because sometimes they have 3-day appointments depending on the weekends. So I could see every mother between 2 and 3 days. But at the same point, we had a little room for that, and of course other mothers that actually use our offices. But the way it all started was, it was spring break 2017, and my children and I, which are in the picture, was at a zoo in New Orleans. And as we were at the zoo, I looked to my left, next slide, and there was this quaint little room to my left, and it had this